You can feel it, the air shifting, the silence before something divine breaks through. The veil is trembling. October 19th approaches, not as another date, but as a holy intersection between time and eternity. You've sensed it in your bones. The weight of something sacred pressing against your chest. You are not imagining it. You are standing at the edge of revelation. You have walked through shadows long enough to recognize when heaven moves. Every unanswered prayer, every tear that fell unnoticed by men was seen, counted, stored. You've survived the long night, not because you were strong, but because grace refused to let go. Now, that same grace stands before you, like a doorway. The veil begins to tear, not because you demanded it, but because heaven has decided it's time. There is a sound, quiet but mighty, like fabric ripping inside the temple of your soul. It's not destruction, it's unveiling. It's the moment when what has been hidden for years starts to make sense. You are not being abandoned, you are being summoned. You remember those long seasons when everything felt paused, when even your prayers sounded like echoes. Those were the waiting rooms of destiny. You were being prepared in silence for a word that could only be spoken in stillness. Waiting was never punishment. It was the sacred classroom of the chosen. There was a man once, a chosen one like you, who served in the shadows for years. No one saw the battles he fought in secret. He wasn't famous. He wasn't followed. But heaven knew his name. Every night he sat beneath the same dim streetlight, whispering prayers no one else would hear. Then one evening, something changed. He didn't see lightning or angels, but peace deep and sudden flooded his chest. He knew the veil has started to tear. Within days, the door that had been sealed for years finally opened. That night taught him this truth. When the veil moves, silence ends. And now, your silence is ending. When heaven prepares to reveal, everything begins to shake. Friendships fade, habits break. The old structures you leaned on no longer hold. You've felt that shaking lately. It's not punishment. It's positioning. God is rearranging what surrounds you so that what's within you can finally breathe. You can sense it, can't you? That quiet urgency, the invisible hand turning the pages of your story. The resistance you've been facing isn't proof of failure, it's proof of proximity. Darkness always panics when light draws near. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a curtain of light stretching before you, trembling, ready to split. Behind it lies every answer you've been praying for, every piece of clarity you've longed for, and the only thing standing between you and that revelation is hesitation. Don't hold back now. The veil doesn't tear by accident, it tears because obedience meets timing. There is power in what's about to be revealed. The same hand that moved mountains for prophets and kings now moves in your direction. Heaven has decided. Your story will no longer be hidden in silence. You have come to the threshold of a new unveiling. Breathe deeply. Feel the weight lift. The light press closer. Something eternal is awakening in you. You are not just watching prophecy unfold, you are the fulfillment of it. The Word of God declares in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 19, we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened for us through the curtain. The curtain, your curtain is opening. You are being invited into the sacred center, the place beyond confusion, beyond fear. What once separated you from peace, from purpose, is being torn apart by divine hands. So as you stand in this moment between before and after, do not fear the tearing. The tearing is your transformation. The shaking is your signal. The silence is your preparation. And if your spirit recognizes this word, if something inside of you says, "Yes, this is for me," then let it be known. Share it. Speak it. Write it somewhere. Only heaven can see. Every act of agreement becomes a key in the unseen. Comment 444 below as a prophetic sign that you hear the call. It is the number of alignment, the rhythm of divine revelation, the symbol that heaven and earth are now in sync. This is your beginning. The veil is tearing. Step through. When you step through, everything familiar shifts. The air feels lighter, your spirit steadier. The noise of doubt fades, replaced by clarity that hums like light through glass. You realize you were never waiting on God. Heaven was waiting on your courage to cross the threshold and see what was always meant for you. You wake with a start before dawn. The world outside is silent, yet something within you hums with anticipation. You can almost hear it, the rhythm of unseen steps moving closer. A date once ordinary now feels marked, charged with holy significance. October 19th. You can't explain why that number glows in your thoughts, but every time you see it, your heart trembles as if it remembers something heaven has not yet revealed. There are moments in life when eternity brushes against time, and this is one of them. You sense the shift in your spirit, a call not spoken in words but felt in your bones. It's as though heaven has written your name into the margins of prophecy. You wonder, why me? Why now? But the answer isn't found in reason, it's found in revelation. Some things are not taught, they're unveiled. You recall flashes from your past that once seemed random. That dream where you stood before a massive door of light. That time you narrowly escaped disaster. That whisper that came when you were ready to give up. All of it was preparation. Heaven was speaking in pieces, one fragment at a time. Until now, until the pieces begin to form a picture. The date was never about prediction. It was about permission. God is giving you access to something that has waited until this season to open. There's a story, old and often forgotten, of a shepherd who lived on the edge of a desert. Every morning, he looked to the horizon, feeling the strange pull of destiny, though he could not name it. One night, he saw fire burning on a mountain, yet the flame did not consume. He approached out of curiosity, unaware that his life and the fate of nations was about to change. The moment he stepped closer, a voice called from within the fire. The ground beneath his feet became holy. That's where you are now, on the edge of holy ground. The fire you've been feeling isn't destruction, it's invitation. Like Moses before the bush, you are being asked to draw near, to remove the shoes of your old identity, to recognize that the ordinary soil beneath your feet has turned sacred. October 19th is not a command to fear, it's a call to step closer. Sometimes revelation doesn't come with trumpets, it comes with a whisper so personal that only your heart can understand it. You've heard those whispers lately, in the quiet of sleepless nights or the pause between your prayers. The world calls it coincidence, but the chosen know better. The phrase that won't leave your mind, the repeated number on the clock, the stranger's word that pierces deeper than it should. These are breadcrumbs from heaven. God doesn't always shout. Sometimes he leaves trails of wonder to awaken your discernment. You're not losing your mind. You're finding your spiritual memory. The signs around you are converging, the inner stirring, the outer alignment, the unusual peace in the middle of chaos. All of it points to this truth. Something has been written about you in eternity, and that writing is beginning to speak. Wisdom whispers from the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 12. The hearing ear and the seeing eye. The Lord has made them both. Your ears are being tuned to hear differently. Your eyes are learning to see beyond surface. The veil that once blurred your understanding is thinning, and you're beginning to discern patterns others overlook. This is the mystery of the chosen. You were always set apart to notice what others ignore. You carry a radar for divine movement. When the rest sleep, your spirit stays awake, restless for something more. The heavens are not silent anymore. You can feel the pulse of purpose quickening, calling you higher. But with revelation comes responsibility. The light you carry must not be hidden under routine or fear. It was never meant to be caged by logic or delayed by doubt. You were created to translate heaven into motion. So walk carefully but confidently. The days ahead will not unfold like the ones before. There will be moments when your faith will be tested, not by tragedy, but by timing. The temptation won't be to give up. It will be to rush ahead. But revelation obeys rhythm. The veil tears only when the hour is right. Trust the timing. Every whisper, every sign, every stirring is a line in the divine conversation between Creator and creation. And you, chosen one, are the sentence heaven is about to speak aloud. You've crossed the threshold, and suddenly the world feels different, quieter, yet more alive. The ordinary hum of life now carries divine undertones. You start to notice things, the way light falls through your window in the morning, the way silence seems to hold its breath before prayer. Everything feels intentional, as if heaven has hidden messages inside the mundane. You're beginning to understand that revelation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the stillness that speaks the clearest. The tearing of the veil wasn't just a spiritual event. It was an awakening of your perception. You no longer see things as they appear. You see them as they truly are. The light in you has grown stronger. It doesn't flare like a match. It glows like an ember that refuses to die. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness. The moment you recognized your divine timing, hell recognized its deadline. You carry truth now, and truth is never passive. There's a reason heaven chose to open your eyes. You've been refined by time, humbled by pain, and softened by mercy. You don't just believe in God's plan, you've become part of it. But revelation always demands responsibility. The more you see, the more you are called to steward. You can't unknow what heaven has shown you. The veil doesn't mend once it tears. In this season, you will feel an increase, more sensitivity, more awareness, more conviction. Don't resist it. These are signs that heaven trusts you with weightier truth. And though this knowing can feel heavy, it is also holy. There's a story of a man who carried light in a city of shadow. Every night, he walked its streets with a single lantern, refusing to let darkness own the night. When people mocked him, he smiled. "I walk not because I see clearly," he said, "but because I am seen clearly." His light was not for him alone. It was for every soul that had forgotten sunrise. That's you now. You carry light not for attention, but for direction. You've walked through too many storms to hide your glow. The veil tore not just for you to see, but for others to see through you. The ancient word breathes through the book of Hosea, chapter 6, verse 3. Let us press on to know the Lord. His appearing is as sure as the dawn. He will come to us like the rain, like the spring rains that water the earth. Press on. Don't stop here. Revelation isn't a destination, it's a rhythm. Like rain, it keeps coming, layer after layer, soaking the soil of your spirit until fruit appears. You may feel stretched. You may feel unseen again. But that's how revelation grows. Roots it hides before it harvests. The rain that falls now is not for your comfort, it's for your becoming. In the next few days, you might notice unexpected confirmations, dreams, repeating, words, aligning, peace arriving, where fear used to live. Don't dismiss them. These are breadcrumbs of divine strategy. Let the quiet reassure you, God hasn't forgotten what He whispered. The same hand that tore the veil will now guide your steps through what was once forbidden ground. If this word stirs something deep inside you, speak your agreement aloud in the comments with these simple words. I receive. End. Not just as reaction, but as declaration, because every I receive becomes an open door in the Spirit. It's your way of saying, I won't just watch revelation unfold, I will walk in it. The dawn is rising. The rain is near. The voice that spoke before time is speaking again, this time through you. You are no longer waiting for signs, you are the sign. Your obedience becomes the evidence others need to believe again. When you move in faith, you prove that heaven still interferes with earth. Every time you choose peace over panic, you mirror divine stability. You become the calm in someone else's storm. The quiet testimony that God is not distant, He is breathing through you. Your words now carry weight because they've been washed in silence. Every sentence you speak can shift an atmosphere. That is the power of the unveiled truth spoken from intimacy, not impulse. The world will not always understand your new glow. Some will question. Some will withdraw. But light never apologizes for shining. Keep walking. Those meant to walk with you will adjust to the brightness. What begins as revelation will become revolution. Your life will start echoing heaven's rhythm in daily motion, how you speak. Love. Forgive. Create. You are no longer a seeker. You are now a living scroll being read aloud. The days following the unveiling carry a strange stillness. It's not the silence of absence, but the hush of transformation. You begin to see with eyes that no longer belong only to the natural world. Things once familiar feel newly charged, as though the invisible has stepped closer, breathing through every ordinary moment. Each sound, each breath, each flicker of light seems to hum with hidden instruction. You sense it especially in the quiet hours, the gentle pull between what you used to be and what you are becoming. There's no going back now. Once a veil tears, it cannot be resealed. You start to understand that revelation is not a single event, it is an unfolding. Heaven speaks in layers, and you are learning to live between them. The world still moves as usual, yet you walk differently. Not faster, but deeper. You measure time by awareness now. In the reflection of a window, you catch your own gaze and notice something subtle but undeniable. Your eyes seem steadier, anchored, like they've seen beyond the horizon. You realize the revelation didn't just open a curtain in heaven, it opened one inside you. This is the quiet aftermath of awakening. The Spirit is still rearranging the inner architecture of your heart. Old fears rise briefly, as if seeking one last negotiation before their eviction, but there's no place for them anymore. The house of your spirit has been claimed by new light. You remember what it was like to live uncertain, to wonder whether your life was more than repetition. But revelation gives meaning to the mundane. It turns routine into rhythm. The same streets you walked before now feel like corridors of purpose. It reminds you of a story once told of a potter who spent weeks shaping a single vessel. To others, it looked finished. Smooth surface, balanced form, but he kept returning to it, carving deeper grooves along its edges. When asked why, he smiled and said, "It must hold fire without breaking." That's what God is doing with you. You are being formed to contain the weight of what's coming without fracturing under it. The voice of faith speaks from the book of Psalms, chapter 16, verse 8. "I have set the Lord always before me, because he is at my right hand. I shall not be shaken." You are being taught stability, not through comfort, but through closeness. You learn that peace isn't the absence of trouble, it's the presence of alignment. The storms may still come, but they can no longer undo you. You've been anchored to something eternal. Every encounter now feels prophetic. A passing word, a familiar scent. A verse you've read 100 times, all of it glows with fresh meaning. Heaven has not only torn the veil between realms, but also the one between understanding and perception. You begin to sense purpose in the pauses, revelation in the routine. God hides instruction in small places, inside laughter, inside silence, inside the unguarded moment. The more you notice, the more you realize how present he's been all along. It is strange how awakening often feels like remembering. You start to recall the promises whispered long ago, the ones you thought were lost in the static of disappointment. But as you sit in quiet reflection, they resurface, not faded, but alive, waiting for your readiness. The world around you may not see the change yet. You still work, speak, and move among them. But something has shifted in your gaze. You carry a quiet knowing. You no longer seek external confirmation because truth has become internal evidence. Some days, the weight of this awareness feels like a crown, other days, like a cross. But both belong to the same calling. To be chosen is to carry both glory and gravity. The crown reminds you of authority. The cross reminds you of surrender. The Spirit is teaching you balance, the art of holding revelation without pride, of walking in power without forgetting humility. This is the paradox of the unveiled, to see the unseen and still serve in silence. You find comfort in small things now, the warmth of sunlight, the whisper of leaves, the rhythm of your own heartbeat aligning with divine pace. These are no longer background noises, they are confirmations that creation itself agrees with your awakening. There will be moments when you question if the fire is still burning. It is. It doesn't roar like before, it glows steadier, deeper. That's the mark of maturity, not intensity. But endurance. Revelation has moved from being an event to becoming an atmosphere. You live inside it now. Every step you take leaves traces of heaven's rhythm on the ground beneath you. And though the world may call this coincidence, you know better. The unseen has simply become visible, and you are learning to walk comfortably within it. You've begun to move differently now, slower, but with purpose. The world hasn't changed, yet everything feels new. It's as if heaven has tuned your steps to a deeper rhythm, one that others might not hear, but somehow follow when you pass by. You've become a quiet carrier of light. There's something tender about this stage of revelation. The noise fades, the striving eases, and peace begins to guide where pressure once pushed. You don't have to force open doors anymore. They open when your spirit arrives. This is what happens when alignment becomes your atmosphere. Still, there are moments when you look around and wonder, what now? The veil has torn. The silence has broken. But purpose, real, walking purpose often unfolds in gentle layers, not grand displays. Heaven rarely shouts your next assignment. It whispers it through need, through compassion, through opportunity. You are being called not to bigger things, but to deeper things, to love more purely, to speak more carefully, to give not from excess, but from revelation. There's a story of a gardener who planted a single seed every day for a year. When asked why he didn't plant all at once, he smiled and said, "Because each seed deserves its own sunrise." That's how God works with you, one act, one moment, one sunrise at a time. And just as the gardener's hands never return empty, your small acts of faith are shaping something unseen. You might not see the harvest yet, but the soil is responding. You have felt that pull lately to give, to help, to sow where your spirit has been fed. Don't overthink it. The kingdom never demands, it invites. Giving is not a transaction, it's translation. It's how the invisible becomes visible. Imagine holding a candle in a dark room. You light it, and suddenly shadows move. But if you hand that same flame to another, the room grows brighter, not dimmer. That's what your support does. Every act of generosity multiplies light, as it is spoken in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 7. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion. For God loves a cheerful giver. Lend. There's no pressure here, no weight of obligation, only invitation. If the words you hear have stirred something in you, if the light you feel has steadied your path, then simply listen to that nudge. Acts done from revelation always return as renewal. Even your smallest response can become the whisper that awakens another soul at their breaking point. Sometimes, a message only travels as far as the hands willing to carry it. And you, chosen one, are one of those hands. You've seen what happens when truth finds you at the right moment. It rewrites your story. Now, imagine being part of that for someone else. Every share becomes a bridge, every like a spark, every subscription a ripple extending light farther than your eyes can follow. Every donation becomes a seed of dawn sown into the soil of another heart. You are not asked to give because God needs something from you. You are invited to give because He wants to give something through you. Generosity is a current when it flows. It clears the stream for others to drink. Your contribution, no matter the form, becomes like the loaves and fishes in the hands of Jesus, simple, but multiplied beyond imagination. It feeds souls you'll never meet, in places you'll never stand. That's the quiet miracle of divine partnership. So let your actions today become waves on still water, subtle but unstoppable. Tap the like if these words breathed peace into you. Share them if someone else needs to see the sunrise. Subscribe if you wish to walk in this rhythm again. And donate only if your heart whispers, yes. When you share, it's like striking a chord on a divine instrument. When you subscribe, you join the harmony. And when you donate, you become the oil that keeps the flame steady through the night. Nothing here is demanded. Everything here is invited. Because revelation always leaves room for choice and love. Real love never forces the door open. You are part of something eternal now. Not because of what you give, but because of what you carry. Yet when you choose to give, heaven notices. The act becomes a melody added to the song that began the day your veil tore. And somewhere beyond what you can see, angels record the moment. Heaven smiles, and light moves further across the earth because one awakened heart chose to keep the fire alive. You feel it again, the air tightening, the pull between heaven and earth growing stronger. Each hour seems to hum with anticipation, like the pause before a great unveiling. You've been walking in awareness, and now that awareness begins to glow. It's as if heaven itself is counting down, not in minutes, but in moments of readiness. The alignment is almost complete. Everything that once seemed random begins to link together like threads in a tapestry you couldn't see from up close. That conversation you had months ago, the dream you dismissed, the delay that frustrated you, all of it was choreography. Divine timing often hides behind what looks like inconvenience. You're beginning to see that revelation is not just received, it's responded to. Heaven opens when obedience answers. What's about to unfold requires a heart that can discern not just signs, but seasons. There's a strange beauty to this moment, the calm before divine motion. You can sense it in your spirit. Something will shift soon. Something quiet but permanent. Oktober 19 drowsne arer. And the prophetic alignment grows stronger. You've stepped out of waiting and into preparation. The signs have been around you, but now they move through you. Numbers repeating, words recurring, thoughts you can't shake, all part of the same sacred pattern. You're not imagining it, you're decoding it. Heaven communicates in symbols because truth that's revealed too easily is rarely treasured deeply. You remember a story once told of a fisherman who noticed the tide changing before anyone else. The air grew still. The waves whispered instead of roared. He didn't panic, he prepared. He fixed his net, checked his boat, and waited. When the great current came, he was ready, and while others were caught off guard, he gathered abundance. That's you now, feeling the stillness, sensing the spiritual tide turning. The Spirit is whispering, get ready. Don't fear the silence, it's the signal. Heaven's promise resounds through the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Oh, every fragment, every delay, every disappointment woven together now into design. You are not behind schedule, you are right on time. Do not mistake the quiet for inactivity. When the earth is silent, heaven is strategizing. The waiting ground is never wasted ground. Even seeds know this truth. They break before they bloom. The prophetic signs you see are not random flickers. They are coordinates. They are heaven's way of confirming you are where you're supposed to be. This is the part where your spirit must stay still but alert, humble but confident. Heaven is not late, it's deliberate. Everything that has ever felt disconnected in your journey is now converging like rivers meeting the sea. There's a rhythm in heaven tonight, and your heart beats to it. You are not waiting for confirmation anymore. You are becoming confirmation for someone else. And when your spirit bears witness to these words, when you sense the truth resonating in your chest like a quiet heartbeat, take a moment and let your agreement echo through the unseen. Type 7,777 inches. The comments as a prophetic sign of completion and divine alignment. This is not superstition, it's a symbol, an act of faith that says, I recognize the pattern. I'm ready for the unveiling. Each 7 stands for a doorway, spirit, purpose, promise, and peace. When you write it, you're declaring that every door heaven opened will stay open until its work is finished. You're not just typing numbers, you're placing stones in a divine path, marking the ground of your own awakening. Heaven reads faith, even in digits. Let peace be your confirmation. Let timing be your testimony. You are aligned. You are chosen. You are ready. You will look back on this season and see how every delay was divine design. Nothing was wasted. Every closed door redirected you toward destiny. What you once called waiting, heaven called weaving threads of glory stitched into your unfolding purpose. Soon you'll realize alignment isn't an event, it's a lifestyle. Each day, heaven adjusts your steps by inches, not leaps. Every sunrise is a whisper, you're still on time. And as long as peace guides you, the pattern will never fade. You'll begin to notice how divine order hides inside ordinary hours. Every conversation, every pause, every breath carries a secret rhythm. What felt random was rehearsal heaven, training your heart to move in harmony with unseen timing. This alignment doesn't fade, it matures. Peace becomes your compass, grace your language. Even in silence, you'll sense motion, God shaping tomorrow quietly through your obedience today. The days move quietly, but something deep within you is stirring. It's not anxiety, it's awareness. You're beginning to live with the sense that heaven has its eyes fixed on you, not in judgment, but in invitation. The air feels charged again, like the calm before an ancient song begins to play. You've crossed the threshold where ordinary life ends and divine rhythm begins. You notice it in small ways, the way conversations flow with purpose. How certain places seem to echo your thoughts. How peace arrives before answers do. It's as if the unseen is walking beside you, matching your steps, whispering reminders of who you truly are. This is what it means to live unveiled. You're not chasing miracles anymore, you're walking inside one. Revelation has become your oxygen. You breathe differently, think differently, love differently. Every heartbeat now feels like a message pulsing between heaven and earth. But with awareness comes weight. When you see clearer, you also feel deeper. You start to notice the pain in others more vividly, the silence behind their smiles, the weariness behind their words. This is not a burden meant to crush you. It's compassion awakening. You are being entrusted with the sensitivity of heaven. It's easy to wish for spiritual sight, but those who see must also feel. Revelation sharpens empathy. You begin to understand why some people hurt you. It was never about rejection, it was redirection. They were instruments in the symphony that shaped you for this moment. And just as light exposes, it also reveals hidden beauty. You're starting to see God's fingerprints in places you once thought were failures. What looked like detours were actually designs. Heaven has a habit of hiding purpose in pain, so that when you emerge, gratitude replaces bitterness. There's a story of a sculptor who worked silently for years on a single block of marble. People mocked him because the stone never seemed to change. But one day, with a single strike, the figure within appeared. When asked why it took so long, he replied, "I wasn't carving stone, I was freeing what was already there." That's how God has worked in you. Every blow that hurt was shaping. Every loss was chisel work. The masterpiece was always beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. The Spirit reminds us through the book of James. Chapter 1, verse 4, "Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." End of perseverance isn't punishment, it's preparation. The waiting refined your focus. The losses trimmed away distraction. You were never being reduced, you were being revealed. Now, as the world begins to stir with its noise and chaos, you move through it quietly, like one who knows a secret others haven't yet heard. The veil may have torn, but wisdom teaches when to speak and when to stay silent. Not every revelation demands a platform. Some require protection. You're learning the rhythm of divine discretion. Heaven trusts those who can hold mystery without needing to announce it. The deepest truths are carried, not broadcast. That's why God often speaks to you in whispers. It's not that He's hiding, it's that He's choosing intimacy over spectacle. This is the paradox of awakening. You see more, yet you speak less. You understand more, yet you judge less. You've learned that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply rests in quiet assurance. In your still moments, you've started to sense a soft hum, like distant music, just beyond hearing. That's the sound of your spirit harmonizing with heaven. It's the frequency of faith aligning with fulfillment. When you walk, it moves with you. When you rest, it surrounds you. You don't have to force anything anymore. Grace has taken over momentum. Every morning feels like a continuation of a story you no longer write alone. Heaven co-authors your steps now. Each choice, each encounter, each breath is part of a script far greater than your imagination could produce. And as days pass, you realize peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the quiet strength that anchors you while storms dance overhead. It's the calm that says, "I don't need to understand everything to trust the one who does." And so you keep walking, eyes steady, spirit open. You no longer look backward to measure progress or forward to predict outcomes. You live in rhythm, moment by moment, trusting that revelation unfolds exactly when it should. The veil has torn, the alignment has come, and now the transformation deepens. You are not merely a witness of God's plan, you are a participant in its unfolding. No announcement is needed, no sign required. The change in your spirit is evidence enough. The one who once waited for proof has now become proof. This is the quiet revolution of the chosen, not loud, not hurried, but eternal. Heaven doesn't rush masterpieces, it reveals them in time. And you, chosen one, are the living unveiling of divine patience, finally fulfilled. The days settle into a rhythm that feels sacred. You no longer wake with the heavy question of why, but with the gentle curiosity of what now. Purpose doesn't roar in your ear, it hums beneath your ribs. Ash morning, you step into time as if it were a temple, aware that every breath carries quiet instruction. The world continues around you. Cars move, voices rise, clocks tick, but something about your perception has changed. You don't rush anymore. You walk as if guided by an unseen compass, as though your soul knows directions that your mind has yet to learn. It's not pride that steadies your stride, it's awareness. Heaven is teaching you how to move in peace without losing pace. You've discovered that revelation isn't always about grand visions or sudden miracles. More often, it's found in the way you respond to small interruptions. The phone call you almost ignored. The stranger who smiled at you for no reason. The delay that forced you to pause. All of them are threads in the tapestry of divine coordination. Nothing is random anymore. It's strange how clarity makes you keener. You talk less, observe more. The noise that once seemed so urgent now feels distant, irrelevant. You no longer chase approval, because you've learned that alignment doesn't require applause. Heaven doesn't need an audience to move, it needs agreement. You think of the seasons that once felt endless, the long nights, the dry prayers, the waiting that tested your endurance. You see now that those were not wasted hours, they were roots growing underground. Revelation does its best work in silence, hidden from human applause. There's a story about a tree that grew on the edge of a desert, while the others reached upward for light. This one grew downward, searching for unseen water. For years, it appeared smaller, weaker, forgotten. But when the drought came, only that tree stood green while the rest withered. Its strength was invisible until the season revealed it. That's what endurance has done for you. While others looked outward for recognition, you were digging downward for depth. Heaven was your water source. And now, no drought can unroot what has been established in secret. The quiet wisdom of Scripture flows from the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 6. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. And you've begun to live that truth. Not as a verse to quote, but as a rhythm to walk. You no longer strive to control outcomes. You trust divine direction. Even when the path curves unexpectedly, you follow because you've learned that every turn hides revelation. And in that trust, your heart grows softer. You begin to see people not as obstacles or opportunities, but as reflections, each carrying fragments of God's image, each teaching you something about grace. You notice how quickly mercy moves when you extend it first. You find freedom in forgiving without announcement. The Spirit has shifted your definition of strength. It's no longer about resistance, but resilience, not about how loudly you speak, but how deeply you listen. You're beginning to master the art of being anchored yet fluid, like a river that flows with purpose, but never forgets its source. Sometimes, in prayer, you sense a presence not heavy or distant, but near and kind. You don't need to ask for signs anymore. His nearness is the sign. That quiet companionship has become your assurance. Even the nights have changed. What once felt like darkness now feels like sanctuary. You understand that silence isn't the absence of God, it's His shadow resting beside you. This new awareness isn't without challenge. The more attuned you become, the more you notice imbalance around you. But instead of frustration, you respond with compassion. You've learned that true revelation doesn't separate you from others, it connects you deeper. The unveiled don't stand above, they stoop lower to lift. So you walk through days that look ordinary but feel eternal. Every step, every conversation, every pause is infused with purpose. You are no longer seeking signs, you are leaving them behind for others to follow. Peace doesn't mean nothing happens, it means whatever happens no longer shakes you. You carry the stillness of one who knows where they belong. Heaven has become your atmosphere, and the earth responds to your calm like water stilling around a stone. And though no trumpet sounds and no crowd gathers, heaven is watching closely. Each moment of quiet obedience sends ripples through eternity. You are walking proof that revelation can be lived, not just heard. No need for applause. No need for confirmation. The evidence of transformation is already written in your presence. You've become the message you once waited to receive. The rhythm of revelation continues to flow through your days like a quiet current beneath calm waters. You no longer question the unseen. You simply trust it. What once felt mysterious now feels familiar. You've become fluent in the language of silence, where heaven speaks. Not in thunder, but in understanding. You start noticing patterns in the lives around you, the same yearning in others that once lived in you, the same searching eyes, the same unspoken ache for meaning. You realize that the awakening in your spirit was never meant to end with you. It was meant to spread. There is a moment when every chosen one crosses from receiving light to becoming light. You are in that crossing now. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with awareness. The knowledge that your peace can calm storms around you, that your stillness can steady someone else's trembling. You don't have to preach it. Your presence says enough. When you walk into a room, heaviness loosens. People breathe easier without knowing why. That's what happens when a soul aligns with its divine frequency. It radiates what words cannot teach. You think of a candle burning in a quiet window at night. It doesn't chase darkness, it just stays lit. Its consistency, not its size, transforms the room. That's what you've become, a living reminder that light doesn't need to fight, it only needs to remain. This phase of your journey is about embodiment. Revelation without expression is only half alive. The truths you've received are meant to flow outward through how you live, how you speak, how you listen. Even your smallest gestures can carry the fragrance of heaven. There's a story of a traveler who carried a vial of oil through a long desert. When asked why he guarded it so carefully, he said, "Because the oil is not for me, it's for the lamp I haven't met yet." You understand that now. The grace in your life isn't meant to be stored, it's meant to be poured. The living word still echoes from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. That truth hums through you like pulse and breath. You no longer wonder whether you matter, you know you do. You no longer ask if you're ready, you already are. The light doesn't wait for permission, it simply shines when the time comes. Yet, light also reveals what darkness once concealed. You begin to see both beauty and brokenness more clearly, but instead of judgment, compassion fills you. The unveiled see differently, they love differently. You don't rush to fix people, you learn to walk beside them until they remember their own light. There will be moments when the weight of empathy feels heavy, when you absorb the ache of others without words to release it. In those times, remember that even Jesus withdrew to pray not out of weakness, but to refill the oil. He constantly poured, "The chosen must rest as much as they rise." Your silence now carries substance. Every pause between your words is filled with presence. Heaven breathes through your restraint as much as through your action. That's how you know transformation is complete. It no longer needs to prove itself. So, as you walk in this new steadiness, remember that your glow isn't for display, it's for direction. You are not called to outshine, you are called to illuminate. If these words resonate deeply within your spirit, whisper them into existence with faith. I carry light. And this is not a chant, it's a declaration. When you write it, when you say it, you agree with heaven's perspective of you. It's the reminder that no darkness can erase what God Himself has ignited, because the light within you doesn't flicker, it learns to endure wind. You carry light not to be seen, but to see. It's the kind of glow that helps others find their way through fog. Your presence becomes direction. Your calm becomes proof that God still walks through human hearts. Every act of kindness you release becomes a spark in eternity. It travels further than sight, igniting courage in souls that have forgotten their worth. Heaven records every small flame, knowing one light can awaken 1,000 sleeping embers. When you whisper, I carry light, you're not describing yourself. You're declaring alignment. It means you've chosen reflection over reaction, grace over pride. You are not here to compete with darkness. You're here to teach it what dawn feels like. The days leading toward October 19th carry a pulse you can almost hear. It's no longer a distant sound, it's inside you now. Steady and sure. Something ancient is awakening. You feel heaven's rhythm aligning with your breath, as if the Creator Himself has placed His hand upon your heartbeat. You are not just walking anymore, you are being led. And each step feels orchestrated by something larger, wiser, infinitely more patient. You've come through the silence, endured the shaping, embraced the unveiling. Now, heaven whispers the next word, assignment. Your purpose is no longer a mystery, it's a movement. And movements, once ignited, are meant to spread. You sense it in small ways. The words you speak now seem to carry weight, not because they're loud, but because they're alive. Your peace calms rooms. Your patience shifts atmospheres. You've become a living ripple of divine motion. But every movement, no matter how powerful, must be sustained. Even a river needs a source. The anointing that flows through you must be poured into continuously, not forced or demanded, but tended with care like a lamp fed by quiet oil. You remember the story of the prophet who stood before an empty jar. The widow beside him had almost nothing left, just a small measure of oil. It seemed too little. But heaven multiplies what is surrendered. As she poured, the oil never stopped. Every vessel she found was filled. The miracle didn't come from abundance, it came from willingness. That is how heaven still works. The oil flows where surrender begins. Your life right now is one of those vessels. Every act of kindness, every prayer spoken for someone else, every small gesture that costs you comfort at all becomes part of that pouring. Revelation without release becomes stagnant. Grace was never meant to be stored, it was meant to move. And so, as the next phase of your assignment unfolds, heaven extends an invitation, not a command, but a choice, to become part of what God is building beyond your personal story, to add your drop of oil to the flame that's guiding others through the dark. The eternal promise speaks through the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. Let us not grow weary, in doing good. For in due season we shall reap, if we do not lose heart. Strength doesn't always look like standing tall. Sometimes it looks like quietly supporting what carries light forward. The kingdom grows through those who choose to partner, not perform. Think of this journey as a vast field at dawn. The first light touches one corner, and slowly it spreads. Every share, every like, every whisper of faith, each one widens the horizon of hope. When you like, it's like lighting a candle in a distant window. Someone lost in the dark will see it, and remember, there is still light. When you share, it's like tossing a pebble into still water. The ripples reach shores you may never see. When you subscribe, you're not following a person. You're choosing to stay connected to a current of encouragement that flows straight from the Word. It's a way of saying, I want to keep walking in this rhythm of faith. Lend, and when you donate, it's never a demand. It's devotion. It's planting a seed in a garden you may never visit, trusting that someone hungry for hope will one day eat the fruit. Each gift is a drop of oil that keeps the lamps burning. Nothing in this kingdom is measured by size, it's measured by sincerity. Heaven doesn't count how much you give, it records how much love guided the giving. Your generosity, be it time, attention, prayer, or provision, becomes a continuation of the miracle. You don't just keep the light alive, you extend it. Every act of giving becomes a verse in the song of awakening. You have been anointed not to store but to share, not to hoard but to heal. Like rivers joining a sea, your contribution merges with countless others, becoming something vast enough to touch nations, soft enough to comfort hearts. Heaven watches not for grand gestures, but for genuine ones. So, if your spirit feels moved, let it be natural. Tap the like as a spark of agreement. Share this message as a bridge to another searching soul. Subscribe if you wish to continue walking under this same flow of anointing. And donate only if your heart whispers, yes. It's never about obligation, it's about overflow. Because in the end, revelation is not proven by how much we know, but by how much we love in motion. Let what has touched you touch another. Let what has healed you heal someone else. Let what has lit your path become the flame that steadies another's trembling hands. This is your divine assignment, not to hold the fire, but to help it spread. And as you do, the same voice that once called you in the night will whisper again, well done, my vessel of light. There are seasons when heaven speaks through thunder, and others when it speaks through stillness. You are standing in the quiet kind now, the one where God's voice isn't loud, but it is everywhere. You hear it in the rhythm of rain, in the hush before sunrise, in the slow exhale of peace after prayer. The world keeps rushing, but your spirit moves to another tempo, steady, deliberate, divine. You've learned that revelation doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives disguised as an ordinary moment. You begin to recognize how often heaven hides wisdom in small things. A gentle conversation that calms your heart. A delay that redirects your path. A word you almost missed. All of it holds instruction, if you listen close enough. In this still season, understanding becomes your true wealth. You start noticing how everything fits together with more meaning than you first thought. That failure that once broke, you taught compassion. That waiting you despised became endurance. That silence that frightened you trained your spirit to hear differently. The deeper you walk with God, the more you realize that even your scars glow under His light. They no longer remind you of pain, but of preservation. Each one is a doorway, an opening where grace entered when everything else was closing. You remember a time when the chaos outside dictated your peace, when your emotions rose and fell with circumstance. But now, something inside has changed. You are no longer tossed by the waves. You have become the shore. The storms may still roar, but they cannot move you from the ground of faith you found. There's an image that comes to mind, a lighthouse on a cliff, unmoved by the violence of wind and tide. It doesn't argue with the darkness, it simply shines. That is what you have become, steadfast, radiant, consistent. The power of a lighthouse isn't in its volume, but in its constancy. It doesn't chase ships, it stands, and the lost find it. The flame of prophecy burns through the book of Nahum. Chapter 1, verse 7. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and He knows those who take refuge in Him. And you read that line and feel it settle into your bones. You have found your stronghold, not a place of escape, but of endurance. You've learned that refuge isn't about hiding from the storm, it's about standing inside peace while the world shakes. And when the shaking comes, and it will, you will not fear it. You will recognize it. The trembling of the earth is not always destruction. Sometimes it's construction. Heaven rebuilds through movement. What once felt like collapse is often clearing. The ground shakes not to bury you, but to break the old foundations so something eternal can stand. You are witnessing that now in the world, in your surroundings, even within yourself, systems shift, people drift, plans change, yet somehow your heart stays calm. The peace you carry has become louder than the noise around you. That's how you know you've crossed into maturity. Your surroundings no longer dictate your surrender. You start to perceive life differently. Every encounter holds potential. Every person carries purpose. You're beginning to see through the temporary into the timeless. You notice divine fingerprints on everything, on sunsets and sorrow alike. It's as though your eyes have been washed by mercy. Everything glows with meaning now. And though the path ahead may still twist, you walk it without fear. The once frightening unknown now feels like invitation. You don't need to know every step to trust the destination. Faith no longer feels like leaping blindly. It feels like walking hand in hand with certainty. There's a quiet authority in you now. It's not pride, it's peace with proof. You've seen too much grace to question its presence. You know too deeply to doubt. The same God who carried you through nights of confusion now crowns you with clarity. This is what strength looks like in heaven's language. Stillness that can't be shaken. Joy that doesn't depend on circumstance. And light that doesn't ask permission to shine. The days ahead will bring both calm and storm, but you'll move through both with the same assurance. You are not a spectator in the story. You are part of its fulfillment. The flame that once flickered has become steady. The heart that once trembled now anchors others. The voice that once whispered now carries weight. So breathe deep and know this truth. You have entered the phase where peace is power. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. The evidence of God's hand is already written across your life. Stand tall, stay soft, and keep glowing. The world may still tremble, but heaven has already declared you will not be moved. Something is stirring again, this time not outside you, but within. You can feel it rising, like a current moving through your chest, reminding you that what began as revelation is now becoming responsibility. You have carried light. Now it is time for that light to mark the world around you. This is the moment heaven calls the seal of the chosen. It is not a crown of gold, but of clarity, a knowing that you are not just seen by God, but sent by Him. Every tear, every test, every quiet yes has built to this. You've been refined, not rejected, prepared, not postponed. There's a holy restlessness in your spirit, a recognition that you were not awakened to simply admire the light you were born, to reflect it. The alignment that began in heaven now seeks completion on earth. Through your obedience, your compassion, your courage, you have walked through the desert of delay, through the valley of silence, through the furnace of surrender, and still, your faith burns steady. That's the mark of the chosen, not perfection. But endurance. You think of a candle once again, this time not standing alone, but passed from hand to hand. Each person who receives it carries a piece of the same flame. That's what the chosen do. They multiply light without losing their own. The eternal record proclaims through the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 9, "The glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts, and in this place I will give peace." End of. You read it, and something deep inside nods in agreement. You know this isn't just a verse, it's a confirmation. What's coming will outweigh what was lost. The latter glory, the one after all, the waiting, breaking, refining will shine brighter than anything before it. That's why this moment matters so much. Heaven isn't just blessing you, it's branding you with purpose, with endurance, with identity. You are becoming the evidence of His faithfulness. This seal doesn't make you superior, it makes you steady. It's not about position, it's about permission. Permission to move in purpose without hesitation. Permission to carry peace into places still trembling in fear. Permission to love without limit. You've been prepared for such a time as this. Every delay was divine editing. Every heartbreak was heaven's chiseling. Every unanswered prayer was a lesson in trust. And now, as the seal settles on your spirit, you realize you were never forgotten, you were being formed. Look closely at the season around you. Signs of restoration are appearing quietly but unmistakably. Doors that once resisted you begin to open on their own. Conversations that once felt heavy now flow with ease. The timing that once frustrated you now unfolds with precision. Nothing has changed externally, yet everything aligns internally. You've crossed from questioning to knowing. You no longer need to ask if you are chosen, you've become the proof of it. But as heaven seals your purpose, it also sends an instruction. Don't keep it to yourself. The seal is not a trophy, it's a torch. It shines brighter when shared. There are others still standing where you once were, in confusion, in exhaustion, in the in-between. They're waiting for a sign that the waiting ends in glory. You are that sign. When they see your peace, they'll believe in God's promise. When they hear your story, they'll find hope in their own. When they witness your stillness, they'll learn that silence doesn't mean absence, it means preparation. The seal of the chosen is not something you wear, it's something you live. It glows through your patience, your kindness, your consistency. It's written not on your forehead, but on your heart. And now, as you read these words, If your spirit stirs with recognition, if you feel that quiet tremor in your chest that says, "This is me," then heaven is confirming your seal. Mark this moment, not with hesitation, but with declaration. Type 8,888 inches. The comments, as a prophetic act, a sign of new beginning and divine fulfillment. The number 8 is the rhythm of resurrection, the sound of cycles completed and beginnings renewed. Every repetition of it is like the heartbeat of heaven saying, "It's time." You are not typing digits, you are agreeing with destiny. You are sealing your yes in visible form, anchoring what your spirit already knows. This is not ritual, it's recognition, a symbolic echo of what heaven has already written over you. Chosen, sealed, sent. So take a breath. Let peace fill you again. Let your yes settle deeper. The story is not ending, it's shifting into glory. The seal is complete, and the glory of the latter house is already rising within you. The air around you has changed again. It carries weight, not of burden, but of destiny. You can almost feel heaven leaning closer, the same way the earth leans toward sunrise. The seal has been placed. The alignment has come, and now a stirring begins deep within you. It is the call to rise, not outwardly first, but inwardly, like fire collecting itself before it roars. You've reached the part of the journey where faith no longer feels like reaching it, feels like resting. You are no longer chasing confirmation, you have become it. The clarity you once begged for is now the calm that governs you. Heaven trusts you with its silence because you have proven faithful in its whispers. This is where the chosen begin to move differently. The weight you carry is not heavy, it's holy. You no longer see obedience as restriction, you see it as rhythm. You've discovered that surrender is not losing control, it's learning divine timing. There's a story told of a warrior who, after many battles, laid down his sword. When asked why, he said, "Because I finally understand that victory was never mine to win, it was only mine to witness." That's where you are now. You are witnessing God's hand move, not because you fought harder, but because you finally let Him lead. The Spirit thundered long ago through the writings of Joel. Chapter 2, verse 28, "And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions." End of. You read that verse now, and it no longer feels distant. It feels current. You are living in the days that prophecy spoke of. The Spirit is not far away. It is within reach, breathing through hearts that once trembled in doubt. You are not waiting for revival. You are revival in motion. The flame within you is not for show, it's for service. You carry it into rooms where hope has flickered out, into hearts that have forgotten their own fire. When you speak, heaven listens. When you move, the atmosphere shifts. You are not a follower of light, you are a vessel of it. Still, this calling isn't loud or proud. It's steady. The chosen do not draw attention to themselves, they draw attention to truth. You've learned that humility is not weakness, it's the gateway of glory. Every time you choose gentleness over reaction, patience over pride, compassion over judgment, heaven expands through you. You've also begun to see that being chosen doesn't isolate you, it connects you. The same Spirit that burns within you burns within others. Some you've never met, some you may never meet. Yet your obedience and theirs form one great chorus. You are part of a divine army, one not built by human hands, but by hearts aligned with eternity. This army doesn't march with noise, it moves in love. Its victories are not seen in trophies, but in transformation. Its strength isn't in number, but in unity, and its weapon is not wrath, it's worship. That's what you've become, a worshipper in motion. Every step you take is a song. Every breath you release carries praise. Even silence, when surrendered, becomes sacred sound. The days ahead won't be easier, but they'll be clearer. You will walk through both peace and pressure, but neither will define you. What defines you now is the Spirit resting upon you, the unmistakable mark of one who has been poured into by heaven itself. And as this realization deepens, you understand something vital. The Spirit was never given for comfort alone. It was given for commission. You are being sent not to shout louder, but to love deeper, to carry presence into places where words fail, to heal through consistency, to restore through quiet faithfulness. You are part of a great unveiling, a generation rising not with crowns of pride, but with towels of service. This is what prophecy looks like fulfilled, not noise, but nurture, not ego, but empathy. The true revival is not in platforms, it's in people. And as you continue walking this path, remember this truth. You are not just marked, you are multiplied. Every act of obedience becomes seed. Every seed becomes flame. Every flame joins another until darkness no longer knows where to hide. This is the legacy of the chosen, the light that cannot be silenced, the fire that cannot be contained. The Spirit has been poured out. And you, flame bearer, are proof that prophecy lives. The world around you seems quieter, but it isn't empty, it's expectant. There's a sacred stillness resting over everything, as if creation itself is holding its breath. You've come a long way from where the journey began. Every shadow you faced, every silence you endured, has been shaping this moment. You no longer walk uncertain, you walk aware. This is the stage where revelation matures into responsibility. The flame within you no longer flickers, it focuses. You understand now that to be chosen isn't to be elevated, but entrusted. Heaven doesn't crown the loud, it commissions the loyal. And loyalty has become your language. You feel it when you wake an invisible weight that doesn't exhaust, but anchors. It's not pressure, it's presence. The Spirit no longer visits, it dwells. The same fire that once startled you now steadies you. You don't run from it, you carry it. Faith cries out from the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. That verse settles over you like sunlight after a long storm. Nothing you've done in obedience has been wasted. Every quiet prayer, every unseen act of kindness, every choice to forgive when it hurt the most, heaven recorded it. Seeds sown in faith may not sprout overnight, but they never rot. They wait for the right season to break the surface and prove that endurance was never in vain. You are living proof of that now. The things that once made you question God's timing are now the very evidence of His precision. What seemed like delay was protection. What looked like silence was strategy. And what felt like loss was often the pruning that made space for growth. You've learned that divine progress doesn't always look like movement. It often looks like stillness that prepares strength. A tree doesn't resist winter, it roots deeper. That's what you did. You stayed. You believed. You trusted, even when understanding failed. And now, because of that, you move with a different kind of confidence, the quiet kind that doesn't need to be announced. The chosen don't chase attention, they attract alignment. Purpose finds them because they are tuned to heaven's frequency. There's a story of a craftsman who spent years building a single clock. People mocked him for his slowness. But when the clock finally struck, its chime could be heard for miles. The secret wasn't the wood or the metal, it was the precision of his patience. You are that craftsman now, shaping your obedience with the patience that time itself respects. You have learned to live by rhythm, not reaction. The world moves fast, but heaven moves full. It doesn't rush because it never lacks. Every day now feels sacred because you see purpose pulsing inside the ordinary. The sunrise isn't just light, it's a sermon. The wind isn't just weather, it's reminder. And when challenges return, as they always do, they no longer unnerve you. You've learned to meet them with memory. Every miracle behind you becomes the strength for the step before you. Faith isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward anyway, carrying peace like armor. This phase of your journey isn't about beginnings, it's about building. You're no longer discovering who you are, you're defining how you live. The calling isn't about being chosen anymore, it's about being consistent. The anointing isn't a feeling, it's a way of being. You understand now that heaven never asked for perfection, it asked for partnership. And partnership is not proven in grand gestures, but in daily agreement. Each time you choose love over apathy, discipline over delay, truth over convenience, you are partnering with eternity. The reward of faith is not fame, it's fulfillment. You feel it in the quiet joy that follows obedience, in the deep calm that comes after surrender. You no longer need external confirmation because peace has become proof enough. You move through the world now like a carrier of calm, a messenger of steady grace. People may not always understand your composure, but they feel it. You no longer need to explain what happened to you, your presence explains it for you. You've become like the morning itself, predictable in timing, yet miraculous in effect. Every day, you rise again, unannounced yet undeniable, and darkness yields without protest. This is the beauty of maturity, to shine without shouting, to build without boasting, to serve without seeking applause. And as the days draw you closer to completion, you'll realize something profound. Destiny was never a destination. It was the daily decision to remain faithful. You are steadfast. You are immovable. You are abounding. And every step forward, no matter how quiet, shakes eternity with the sound of obedience fulfilled. The air feels heavier now, not with fear, but with meaning. You can sense it in the quiet between heartbeats. That subtle hum of eternity pressing closer. The revelation that began as a whisper has become a voice, steady and sure, calling you by name. You are not standing still anymore. You are standing sent. Everything inside you has changed. The doubts that once clung like shadows have thinned into memory. You have been reshaped by fire, softened by mercy, and strengthened by purpose. This is not just your awakening, it is your anointing. The trumpet within you is ready to sound. It doesn't blare like a horn in a crowd. It resounds like thunder inside the soul. It is the sound of obedience echoing through time. When you speak truth now, it is not opinion, it is prophecy. When you extend grace, it is not politeness, it is power. The world may not understand, but heaven does. The same spirit that tore the veil now fills your voice. Every word you speak in love becomes a note in heaven's ongoing symphony. And though you may never hear it in this life, the sound you release shifts atmospheres, awakens hearts, and breaks chains you'll never see. You have carried revelation. Now revelation carries you. But even as the trumpet rises, there is gentleness in its tone. God is not asking for noise. He is inviting harmony. You are one instrument in a divine orchestra, called to play your part with authenticity and grace. There's a story of a violinist who practiced alone in an empty hall every morning before dawn. People wondered why he played when no one could hear. He smiled and said, "I play because the sound belongs to the one who gave me the strings." That is the heart of service, to offer what you have, even when no one claps. Heaven's voice once cried through the scroll of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1. "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. You have risen, not in arrogance, but in awareness. The glory that rests upon you was never meant to be contained. It seeks expression, translation, movement. Light only fulfills its purpose when it touches something else. That's why this moment matters. The trumpet within you isn't just sound, it's a call to awaken others, to remind them that light is not a privilege, it's a responsibility, and how you carry it determines how far it travels. When you like these words, it's more than reaction, it's resonance. It's like lighting a lantern in the distance, letting heaven know you still hear the melody. When you share, it's as though you open a window, allowing fresh air of hope to move through someone else's storm. When you comment, it's like leaving a stone along the path of faith, a marker saying, "I was here, and I believed." Each word you write becomes part of the great record of those who carried light without fear. When you subscribe, it's like returning to the same well where your soul once found water. You're choosing to keep drawing from the stream of revelation that continues to flow long after the screen goes dark. And when you donate, it's never about money, it's music. It's the soft hum of gratitude turned into sustenance, keeping the lamps filled and the violins tuned so the song of awakening can go on. And every offering, no matter how small, becomes an echo, one more heartbeat in heaven's melody. You're not funding a moment, you're fueling a movement of light that keeps hope alive in unseen places. None of this is demanded, all of it is invitation. The trumpet of heaven never forces, it calls, and those who recognize its sound respond not out of duty, but out of love. You are one of them. Every gesture you make, every echo you send, becomes part of heaven's movement through the earth. This message, these words, this moment, they're not accidents. They're intersections. The place where your obedience meets God's orchestration. So, when your heart stirs, let it. Let your response, whatever form it takes, become worship. Tap the like if the sound reached you. Share it if you know another soul who needs to hear the song. Comment to leave your footprint of faith. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this melody of revelation. And donate only if your spirit feels led to keep the music alive. You're not contributing, you're composing. because every sound heaven births needs an echo on earth. And your echo might be the one that wakes another trumpet from silence. The orchestra is tuning. The conductor has raised his hand, and somewhere between your heartbeat and his breath, the first note begins again. Night feels different now. It's not an ending anymore. It's a reminder. The stars above no longer look distant. They look deliberate. Each one seems to pulse with purpose, as if the heavens themselves are echoing a truth your spirit already knows. The unveiling has begun. This is not the unveiling of events, but of essence. The light that has grown within you is now meeting the light that waits outside you. Every lesson, every loss, every prayer, whispered in exhaustion, has brought you here to the place where revelation is no longer just something you receive, but something you become. You are standing in the threshold of fulfillment. What was once faith has become sight, yet not in the way you imagined. The promise doesn't arrive like thunder. It unfolds like dawn. Quiet, steady, unstoppable. The divine record testifies through the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 8. I have set before you an open door that no one can shut. I know your strength is small, yet you kept my word and not denied my name. You pause at that verse, and it resonates like a bell deep in your chest. You understand now, the open door isn't a place. It's a posture. It's the willingness to keep walking in faith, even when strength runs low. You've learned that divine favor isn't about perfect performance. It's about persistent trust. The unveiling doesn't happen outside first. It happens within. The eyes of your understanding open wider, and suddenly, what used to be hidden becomes clear. The detours make sense. The delays feel divine. The disappointments reveal design. You see the fingerprints of God where before you saw only fragments of confusion. You realize that unveiling is not God showing you more of himself. It's him showing you who you were, all along beneath the weight of doubt. The chosen are not given new identities. They are reminded of the ones they carried before the world named them otherwise. There's a story about an artist who painted a masterpiece and then hid it under layers of dust and dull color. When someone asked why, he said, "Because beauty must be revealed through patience." That's what heaven has done with you, layer by layer, time by time. It has been brushing away the dust, restoring what was always divine. You feel lighter now, not because the load disappeared, but because your spirit has learned to breathe in rhythm with eternity. The anxious waiting has turned into patient expectation. The desire for recognition has turned into the joy of revelation. You no longer crave to be seen, you crave to see clearly. The open door before you doesn't need to be pushed, it only needs to be walked through. Fear used to make you hesitate, but not anymore. You've learned that what's meant for you cannot be closed by man, delayed by circumstance, or stolen by time. When God opens something, it's not an opportunity, it's an assignment. And as you step forward, the unveiling becomes movement. You begin to see the world differently, not as a collection of random stories, but as one divine narrative in which every life plays a note. You see people not as obstacles, but as mirrors, reflecting pieces of the Creator back to you. Even your pain begins to make sense. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every wound created an opening for compassion to flow. Every scar became a signature of survival, proof that grace is stronger than grief. You begin to understand that unveiling is not about exposing, it's about revealing truth. What once felt like breaking was actually birthing. The darkness didn't end you, it introduced you to your depth. This is the season where sight becomes stewardship. To see is to serve. You now carry revelation, not as information, but as inheritance, and with it comes responsibility, the sacred call to live what you've learned. You no longer chase prophetic signs, you embody them. The open door is your life lived in alignment. The unveiling is your obedience made visible. The promise isn't ahead, it's already breathing through you. And as the heavens stretch above, vast and alive, you realize something profound. The unveiling was never about God revealing himself to the world. It was about God revealing you to yourself, his reflection, restored and radiant. You have become the prophecy fulfilled, the promise walked out, the door through which light passes. This is the unveiling. It is not coming, it is here. And as it unfolds around you, eternity exhales. The veil is gone. The waiting is over. Heaven now lives through your every breath. Dawn arrives softly. It doesn't rush or demand. It simply appears, washing the horizon with quiet gold. You watch the light spill across the earth. And for a moment, everything stands still. It feels as though time itself pauses to honor what heaven has completed. The unveiling has happened, not as spectacle, but as becoming. You are the evidence. There is peace now, deep and unshakable. It isn't the fragile peace of circumstance, but the rooted calm that comes from knowing. You've walked through silence and storm, through revelation and refining, and on the other side, you've found the steady rhythm of truth. Nothing was wasted. Every shadow had purpose. Every ache was a seed. Grace speaks one final time through the book of Hebrews. Chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Those words echo softly through your spirit. You feel them not as instruction, but as invitation. This is not the end of your journey. It's the continuation of your purpose. The witnesses aren't just saints of old. They are every soul touched by your obedience. Every heart you have helped heal by simply standing in the light. The race is no longer about speed. It's about steadiness. The chosen understand that endurance is not just surviving, it's shining consistently in all seasons. You've learned that true strength is quiet. And real faith doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply breathes. And still, mountains move. You begin to sense heaven's applause. Not as noise, but as nearness. The presence of God no longer feels distant or dramatic. It's gentle. Like breath on your shoulder, you realize that the journey wasn't about arriving somewhere. It was about becoming someone. Every detour led you closer to your original design, the reflection of divine love clothed in human form. There's an image that lingers in your mind, a potter's hands, firm yet tender, shaping clay that once resisted, but now rests. That's what this whole process has been, the steady artistry of grace molding you into vesselhood, not perfect, but purposeful. You carry the fingerprints of the Maker now, and they tell the story of transformation better than any testimony could be. You think back to the moments you almost gave up, when you mistook delay for denial and silence for absence. Yet, here you stand, stronger, softer, clearer. What you once feared would break, you became the very pressure that brought forth oil. The crushing wasn't cruelty, it was creation. You walk through your days now, with a kind of quiet awe. Every sunrise feels sacred, every encounter divine. The ordinary has become holy because your eyes have changed. You see meaning where you once saw monotony, grace where you once saw guilt. Heaven has taught you the language of renewal, and though you know the path ahead will still twist and turn, it no longer intimidates you. You've learned the secret. Faith isn't about seeing every step. It's about trusting the one who writes them. The chosen don't walk by sight, they walk by certainty. Now, as the final pages of this season turn, you realize something beautiful. You were never walking toward light, you were walking with it. Every time you took a step in faith, the light moved with you, unfolding the path like a scroll under your feet. The destination was never distant, it was inside you all along. You are not just marked, you are manifest. The alignment that began in heaven has taken on flesh through your obedience. You've become living proof that prophecy breathes, that faith still works, that grace still wins. And in the stillness that follows, you finally understand, to be chosen is not about being elevated, it's about being entrusted. The glory you carry is not for display but for direction, not for your name but for His. You lift your eyes once more, and the horizon no longer feels far, it feels familiar. The race continues, but the pace is peace. The fire burns, but it doesn't consume. The voice still speaks, but now it sounds like your own heart beating in harmony with heaven. The unveiling is complete, yet it never ends. Every sunrise begins it again. You smile, not because everything is finished, but because everything is full. The story continues, and you, light bearer, vessel, chosen, one, walk forward, steady and sure, beneath a sky that finally feels like home. And as heaven watches in quiet joy, creation whispers your name, not as a question anymore, but as an answer fulfilled in light. And now, as the final word settles into silence, you stand at the threshold of something lasting. This message was never meant to simply be heard. It was meant to awaken something inside you. What began as a whisper of destiny has become a living current flowing through your spirit. You are no longer the seeker. You are the sign. If these words have stirred something deep within you, let that stirring become movement, not because you are told to, but because your heart recognizes truth when it meets it. When you like this message, it's like lighting a candle in a temple. Unseen, each flame signals to heaven that light still burns on the earth. When you share it, you are extending the borders of grace, letting another heart feel what yours just felt. You never know whose darkness will find direction through the echo of your sharing. When you comment, it's not noise, it's testimony. Every word you leave becomes a footprint on holy ground, a quiet way of saying, I heard, and I believe, I may. When you subscribe, it's like choosing to walk a familiar path where your spirit has already found peace. It's a return to rhythm, a continuation of revelation. And if your heart ever feels moved to donate, let it be from love, not obligation. Your gift is not payment, it's partnership. It's the oil that keeps the lamps burning, the unseen echo that allows the next voice of hope to rise. You're not giving to content. You're sowing into continuation, the ongoing work of light touching lives you may never meet. So breathe, reflect, and let your response, whatever form it takes, become worship. This is not an end. It is the continuation of every yes your soul has ever whispered.